I was 7 when I got my first computer. I was 7 when I got addicted to video games. Raise your hand if you too are addicted to video games. Raise your hand if you are in denial. My addiction worsened after the onset of COVID. Whenever my parents weren't watching me, I would play video games. Whenever my teachers weren't watching me, I would play video games. I received a string of Fs for missing homework, and I was regularly sent to the dean. The dean was compassionate and upbeat. I'm sure you'll get better. Weeks passed. The dean called my parents. The dean said, Michael has become the best student in the school. That did not happen. He had called my parents because I'd played games in class again and again. My teachers also soon started pouring in concerns and complaints. One day, my mom received over 10 emails from my teachers for the same reason. Another day, I overheard a teacher vent to my mom. He's the worst student I've ever had. All these concerns and complaints circled back to me. My mom talked to me daily. Sometimes she was compassionate and encouraging. There were also times where she looked tearful and desperate. Then there were the dreadful times when she looked murderous and yelled, "Get out of the house now!" I felt ashamed and guilty every time, but only for a brief moment, as I soon sought comfort in gaming. My brother had the same problem with gaming as well. He would set the alarm for midnight just to wake up and play video games. Almost all my friends played video games as well. As the teacher droned on about history, me and my friends would play video games. None of us thought it was so bad. For years, nothing impacted my gaming habits until one day, my teacher recommended I see a psychologist for game addiction. Game addiction? Really? Gaming is just a hobby. But out of curiosity, I Googled game addiction and found I had almost all the symptoms. I couldn't quit playing. I was angry when I wasn't playing. I thought about playing all the time. I lied to people about the amount of time I spent playing. I had lots and lots of school problems because of my gaming. Upon further digging, I found more shocking information. 1. Game addiction is serious. The World Health Organization officially recognizes game addiction as a mental disorder. Game addicts develop compulsive and obsessive behaviors. They can experience symptoms such as depression, obesity, and even seizures. 2. Game addiction is pervasive. 90% of all US kids play video games, and 8.5% of them, which is roughly 6 million kids, are game addicts. 3. Game addiction is extensive. Game addiction is expensive. A 10-day inpatient rehab can cost up to $14,000. So, what makes game addiction such a big problem? It turns out video games are addictive by design. The game industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. In 2022, the game industry made $220 billion. For comparison, the net farm income for 2023 is only less than $200 billion. And by 2030, the game industry is estimated to make $583 billion USD. They hire psychologists and other experts to intentionally make the games more addicting. A research psychologist in the gaming industry can make up to 6-figure, a ludicrous amount. Now you know psychologists have a new career path, to keep you hooked on video games. Moreover, there are barely any restrictions on the gaming industry. Present laws and policies mainly protect the gaming industry's rights. The only restriction in place is a voluntary rating system that rates the violence level of a game. It is voluntary because violent content is protected as free speech, but is readily available for kids. I bet you know someone who is an addictive gamer. It could be you, your son, your daughter, your sibling, or your friend. Making video games overly addictive is a war raging against children. We must put an end to this generation crisis. You may be wondering how I fare in this crisis. Well, you only have one life, unless you're a gamer. And I have started a new one. When my mom yelled at me to get out of the house, she meant it, and she made sure I played outdoors for an hour every day. This made me less addicted to video games and made me develop a passion for sports. I also realized I enjoyed coding, and I soon made it my newfound hobby. Gaming software developers make lots of money. But wait, instead of making kids addicted to video games, we should try to make software dedicated to preventing game addiction. It is important for kids to find a new hobby outside of gaming, but kids should not bear all the burden because it is a societal issue. Here are 4 ways I think could all help work to mitigate this issue. I call it the ABCD solution. A, awareness. We need to spread awareness about game addiction. We should create a day called Video Game Addiction Awareness Day dedicated to spreading awareness about game addiction. B, boundaries. We need to set boundaries for the gaming industry. I call on parents and educators to help urge these big companies to adopt practical policies and procedures to help curb video game addiction. We cannot win without the cooperation of these big companies. Some countries are already implementing such boundaries, such as limiting the amount of time a child can play consecutive hours for video games. C, commitment. We need to commit resources to researching the key factors of game addiction, how to prevent it, and how to treat game addicts. We should treat kids safely. D, development. I believe anti-gaming addiction software will become an industry worth investing in. I've created a small business called Healthy Gaming. Billionaires in the audience, you can make the right investment in my business. So, let's protect ourselves and work together. Thank you.